Hey everyone, I'm now on Patreon. Click the link below. Not only keep the free content coming with tutorials, tips, podcasts, etc., but get a bunch of free stuff like live stream Q&As, copy of my book, voting on topics, behind the scenes, bunch of cool stuff. Click the link down below to join. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 12 of the Scott Stokely podcast. And this is going to be as close to, God, I don't want to use the word political because we're not talking about politics, but as close to a controversial, maybe a better word, topic as I've gotten into on this. And I'm excited about it. And the reason I'm excited and the reason I specifically have this person on, and we'll bring her on in a second, it's Sally Chatman from Diversify Disc Golf. And the reason why is that I'm not a fan of echo chambers. Right. This is the big thing in social media, which is you are surrounded by this group of people that are just like you. They look like you. They think like you. They vote like you. They have the same movie and music taste that you do. And it's really easy to get this illusion that your way of thinking is the only way. Now, I've spoken with Sally a couple times before doing this, and we have the same ideas about how we want things to look. But the reason I wanted to talk to her is because on paper, I don't think we could be any more different. I mean, if you have a list of check boxes, I'm a man, she's a woman, I'm white, she's black, I'm old, she's young. We come from radically different backgrounds. She's been playing disc golf for a year. I've been playing disc golf for 43 years, right? I mean, our perspective on the sport are going to be completely different. We're coming at 2020 disc golf from two radically different worldviews. And I think my theory is this is going to make for an interesting discussion because we are different on paper, but that's a good thing. That's what diversity is, right? So welcome to the show, Sally Chatman.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to speak with you about these topics.
I am too. So what I always do is that I try not to research too much about guests that I have if they're not friends of mine. I mean, we're friends, but we don't have a history. And the reason why is because if I know too much about you, then I maybe won't ask questions that the audience wants to hear because I assume everyone knows this thing I know. So I would like you, let me start with, tell me about your background. I mean, like before you got to disc golf, like where tell me about you.
Before I got to disc golf, I kind of lived everywhere. I was born in New Orleans, grew up in Detroit. I spent about 8 years in Alabama. Moved back to Detroit in 2017. And in the midst of all that, I done my schooling and become a licensed massage therapist. And that's kind of where I left off and dove into disc golf.
Okay. And you found disc golf this year?
Yes.
So how did that, I mean, this is actually fresh in your memory. So how did that experience happen?
So it was kind of like my fiance. He is black, of course, all the way, not mixed like me, but all the way black. And he plays disc golf, was really, really, really trying for a really long time to get me to go out and play. And I'd look at him and I'd be like, I'm not going to do that white people shit with you. I'm not. Like, I'm good. I'm cool. Like, even if we did go out there, it'd be awkward. And, here comes 2020 pandemic. And, I'm not working, need something to do. And he's like, let's go disc golfing. And I'm like, fine, I'll go because I need something to do and I need to get out the house. So I went, didn't have a bag. I played out of his bag. And it was probably the next day that I was saying, I need a bag. I need my own discs. Like, how does this fly? How am I supposed to throw this? Like, how does it work? Tell me how to do it. And ever since then, it's literally been a nosedive, like, into disc golf. And I can honestly say that at this point, it's my whole life now.
So the first thing I think of when I hear that is that if I was just reading a transcript, except for it's a white person thing, like your experience is basically identical to any human being who plays disc golf for the first time and finds it, right? There's that part's, I mean, the playing the game is playing the game, right?
Yep.
So, and this was in Michigan?
Yeah, this was in Michigan. I started playing here, and I think one of the first courses I went to was Kensington, where they have a toboggan where they did Gigolo.
Yeah.
And they took the baskets out, so I didn't get a chance to play it. But like, I'm ready for them to put the baskets in, and I so feel like I can play that course.
I actually walked that course with the designer before the course was put in the ground. I actually went out there with Jim Kenner, and as he walked around, and he said, here's where the tee pad's going to be. We're going to put the basket up here. And he's showing me this beautiful piece of land. One of the areas that Michigan has been ahead of the curve, I mean, each region has done things well. And the state parks and the metro parks in Michigan were as quick to adopt it and for it to catch on as anywhere, which are, if you haven't played disc golf in Michigan, you cannot build a bad disc golf course at one of these parks. It's impossible. So that's cool. And so when you started playing, you were just playing you and your partner?
Me and my fiance.
You and your fiance. Were you involved
We
in
would play.
Go ahead.
We would play, and I would be really interested in like playing with other people and like seeing groups of people playing, and I would wonder, like, what does the community around disc golf really look like? And, you know, some people just aren't social, and that's understandable. But, you know, he didn't really want to get out as much, but we still got out and met some people. And the first person that I met in the disc golf community in my area was Heidi. And she was so welcoming, and just, it was comfortable from the start. And I think she was one of the first people to really let it be known that disc golf is accepting, but you, just like anywhere in life, you're still going to have that handful of people that are going to just suck.
Right. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's people everywhere. The thing that attracted me to disc golf early on, actually I wrote about this a lot in my book, was that I came from a rich, white, conservative town, which I did not fit in. I grew up I was white, but I didn't grow up rich and conservative. I grew up blue collar, wound up in this rich person town. It was just like a John Hughes movie where everybody had brand new, expensive designer bicycles, cars. Well, not at age 12, but they had $100 bikes, and I had the $200 bike. And nothing about my community. I didn't fit in. I didn't make friends. I don't think they liked me. And the disc golf community was not that. It was not that group. It was about everybody's welcome. We just want more people to play. I mean, back then we just wanted, anybody to play. You know, grow the sport was, that's a more recent phrase, but that was the primary goal of everybody that played disc golf for the first 30 years was, how do we get 7 people out to league night because we only have 5? And that was the thing. But the community was always very much not conservative, especially in the early days.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing. And again, we're going to talk about some things that are going to make some people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the reality. Hey.
It's recording.
And one of the things that there's this is just statistic, because it's just a fact, is that especially up until recently, it was a white male adult sport. And that's just on, just look at the numbers. I mean, that's just walk on a course. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I think where the challenge comes is that, the reason it's that way is not automatically because the people in the sport wanted it to be that way. And as long as I've been playing, and I've been around forever, the conversations about how to bring more women, juniors, races, you name it, into the sport has been a constant conversation since day one. The solutions weren't found, but not because the community didn't want it. The community absolutely wanted this. And club meetings and tournament meetings and PDGA. I mean, I was actually at all these meetings, and that was a topic of discussion. How do we get more women to play? And the answer was usually, or we'll try this, but it didn't usually work. And it's only been recent that's been catching on. Like the women's game is blowing up, but it's still got a ways to go, right?
Still got a long ways to go. I think it's great that people were able to grow the sport, but I think that the fact that people don't know how to approach people of different demographics, that kind of hindered the progression of growing the sport outwards and not just in one direction. And I think maybe starting a dialogue of how to just communicate with people is a good way to maybe help people understand how to approach other people. I mean, it's not really that different because people seem so nervous to talk to Black people. I mean, I've experienced it while playing in a mob round before. There was a younger kid in the group and he completely avoided eye contact with me until I forced conversation. And then after that, he was fine. And I mean, I didn't see why it was like that at first. And I had to I was forced to break the ice and, make him comfortable. And I feel like that might be a part of why this isn't growing outwards.
Well, now, do you think it also goes both directions? Because you even mentioned earlier, you said your first thought about disc golf was, I don't want to play this white person sport. So you were expecting the same thing in a way, weren't you?
Yep. It's the same all around. We've got to meet in the middle and be like, hey, this isn't going to be uncomfortable for you, I promise. And then be like, hey, it's not just this kind of sport. It's a sport that everybody can play. So if we could just put everybody in diversified disc golf in the middle.
and that's what I like. I like your page and I like the vision that you have. And I was very careful to pick you to speak with because it gets so politicized and it gets so polarizing and discussions go off the rails so quickly that there's plenty of people who may want the exact same thing I do that I would never have a public conversation with because you're talking solutions. You're not talking about commonalities. You're talking about things that create venom. And with diversified disc golf, you haven't done that. You've actually kept it, knock on wood, it hasn't been up for very long, but so far you've kept everything the right direction. That's on purpose, right?
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we agreed on as a team when we started that page. The main thing that's going to turn everybody off is political discussions, and we can make those discussions anecdotal without putting details into it that are going to polarize it. And we can still have these conversations, but once we start talking about all the extra stuff and digressing, then nobody's going to get to the solutions.
Right. And I think that's super smart. And I hope you guys can keep that reeled in because I think it'll be a challenge. I don't know if has it been a challenge so far? Have you had to actually pull people back or have people been pretty good?
All right. So our page has been up for about 6 weeks now. Within week 4, we started getting the trolls and they all came within 1 day. I had posted something in the group that I had made note that it was not disc golf related, but it was a positive message that I think that, everybody could read and it wouldn't be a problem. Well, I got attacked with, this isn't disc golf related. If you were going to make the rules of this page, you should follow them. And, you said you wanted your page to look like this and this is, and I just, I was like, whoa, everybody relax. We all know that we can post whatever we want and this is my page. But I mean, I want everybody to be able to say what they want to say. Yes, it is a disc golf page, but if there's a positive message or a meme or something that somebody wants to share, I don't think that should be a problem. I've also had people come in the group and just post, what is this about? I don't get it. Like when we have our mission statement clear at the top, and we do have the trolls. And I do think we also have some people that may be lingering around in the group just to see what we do.
Of course. Is this your first foray into being a public figure or putting something out there publicly, or have you experienced this before?
I would love to be like super, super honest with you right now. I used to be an exotic dancer, so it's not my first time like being in a public, being in a public eye. And I used to do a lot of like modeling and promotions and stuff like that. And it's not really what I'm doing now, but I do have experience kind of being in the public eye, but not in a more professional manner.
Right. This is going to be a journey for you. And I can speak to this firsthand. My last podcast was all about being controversial and being polarizing and how to deal with haters. And it's really tough. You're going to have a lot of people try to knock you down. And I mean, you got to be very mentally and emotionally tough to put yourself out there like this. And a lot of people are going to be on your side. Not all of them are going to be vocal, but a lot of people will be on your side. But you're going to have to deal with this. And how you deal with this ultimately could determine the success of what you're trying to do. Because those people, they're part of the world. Mm-hmm. And even their hatred, they're allowed to hate. There's no law that says you have to be a jerk in social media. There's no, like, you're a jerk for doing it, but you're allowed. And the acceptance that is going to come with what you're doing, is going to be, I think that's probably your biggest challenge. But if you can weather that, like, you'll get numb to it. It'll take a while.
Oh, I'm going to weather like Mother Nature, because I've had my own experiences that have made me the person that I am today. And I can promise you that once I am set on something and motivated, it will get done. And this is something that I can keep working towards for years. So, I mean, there's nothing that I can't do with this project, and there's nothing that anybody can say to me that's going to make me not want to do it anymore. I'm ready for the backlash and all the people that don't want to do this, and I feel like those are the people that are kind of raised differently. Those are the people that need love. So if I am presented with some kind of negativity, I'm gonna shoot back with like 10 times more positivity and hope that it can, get them to open their eyes and their hearts and just be regular people.
Yeah, it's tough. I have a friend, a very good friend, who male to female, full transition. And when she first came out, she had to live as a woman for a year before doing the surgery. That was the law in Colorado. That way, you're not making it because of a bad breakup or some, like, they want to give you a chance to actually make sure it's the right decision. I personally think that's reasonable, but it doesn't matter. That's the law. So she, as a year, and just about everybody in our community, our friend group, fully accepting, not a problem. We have one friend, it completely surprised me, who just said, nope, not cool with it. This ain't, like, just had, I don't want to be friends anymore. Don't want nothing to do with it. It was one friend. And when she was talking to me about this, she was devastated by this. And with all the support she was getting, she was devastated by this one person. And she kept saying, should I write him a letter? Should I try to call? And she wanted to somehow convince this one person. And finally, I just had to grab her and say, he's allowed to hate you. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, he's allowed to hate you for whatever reason he chooses to. I think he's wrong, but that's not against the rules. I'm allowed to hate somebody for any reason I choose to. That's my right. And I just was like, you can't focus on this one person who's just ruining your day when you have all these people that are on your side. But that one person it just crushed her. And I think she finally wrapped her head around the fact that not everybody's going to like me. I'm doing this thing that it's outside the mainstream. Some people are going to hate me for it, and there's nothing I can do. And I think when she got a hold of that, she was fine, but it wasn't easy.
I mean, it's rough. And then when you're like me and you want everybody to play disc golf and love it like you go out and you're like, hey, let's do this. And they're like, I'm not interested. I'll play recreational, but no tournaments. And you got to understand that too, because you can't get too pushy. You're going to push people away.
Right. Are you surprised how quickly your page blew up?
Absolutely. I had you know what? I didn't even tell my fiance about it when I made the page. And because I really didn't think it was going to do anything. I thought I was going to have, maybe 45 chicks in the group and, we share our memes and that would be it. And then, a week later, it turns into, oh, we have 500 people in our group. And then, now we're at 1,600. And I'm just like, you guys are watching me?
Do you have a gauge on the demographic of the people?
Oh, I believe I do. One moment. Okay, so we have 66.6% men.
Okay.
33% women, 0.5% custom. We have the most people in the age ranges are 25 to 34. Next one is 35 to 44. And then 45 to 54. We have United States as a top country. Canada and United Kingdom both have more than 25 members. And we also have in these other countries, Malaysia, Thailand, Finland, Germany, Nigeria, Netherlands, Austria, Australia, Sweden, Indonesia, Colombia, Italy, Japan, and Singapore. So we've got people from all over.
I think it's fantastic. And one of the things I'm assuming you'll find is that, if I am representing the white male demographic, which I kind of can't help, there are white males out there who feel the exact same way that I do, that you do, as far as what they want to see happen. One of the challenges is like, what do we do? Like that's give us a task. It's kind of like if someone comes to a tournament and you're running a tournament, people will show up to volunteer, but they're just going to stand around unless you say, I need you over there spotting that hole. As soon as you tell them, they're going to grab a lawn chair and go spot the hole, but they're there to help. And I think that all those people in your group, I mean, they're not in the group for no reason. They're in the group because they want the same thing. Is part of the idea of this to help to create some direction for things like, action plans for people to do?
Absolutely. Within our organization, we have a few programs that we have like running so far, but we have just a few ideas right now of how we can bring this sport into different areas and do different things with it instead of, just playing disc golf, because there's so much you can do with a disc and a basket. So I know we got a chance to talk a little bit a few weeks ago about the putting parts that I wanted to do.
Right.
I think that's going to be a big part of bringing that into new areas. So it's not so much of a gather all your Black friends and let's go disc golfing kind of thing. It's more like hey, let's bring this into the light so everybody can see it and know about it.
More just about exposure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is going to be a challenge, is that courses have naturally popped up. Well, initially in the early days of the sport, the course went into the ground in those extremely rare cities that would allow us. And, so to kind of take what you can get, they were always city parks, but then it's naturally progressed to the type of terrain that is going to be more suitable for a quality disc golf course. And by that very nature, that's usually not going to be in urban areas. And that's not to do with color. It has to do with, downtown Portland, I think, is pretty white, and there's not going to be a course in downtown Portland, right? It's just not, there's not 25 acres of land sitting around with no one using it. So,
right, but what if you could take that park, or that same park, maybe about the size of a soccer field, and set up your baskets in a way that, these two can putt across from each other and play games, and then you have some other ones that are at different distances and they can putt across and play putting games. And then you put some at a different distance to where, there's a layout underneath it, maybe even on concrete, painted on concrete, where it kind of looks like a growing spiral. And the object would be, the person would move from the outside of the spiral and be putting from farther distances while making that circle around the basket. I'm pretty sure there's multiple putting games that you can put together for something like that. And that would just get people interested. Then that would have them looking for those larger parks and larger courses.
Yeah, and that's what I liked when we talked on the phone, which I really liked, because that's a challenge.
Yeah.
They challenge of how, but I think Topgolf has given a great example of people don't need a golf course. I don't know what Topgolf uses, 2 acres or something.
I have no idea.
But whatever it is, it's like you have 2 acres of land. You can have a golf facility in your town without having a golf course. And they've figured out a way to make golf interesting without playing the game. And so you have ideas for that.
Absolutely. We can definitely, there's just so much, there's so much potential for what we can do to expose, for the exposure of disc golf. And now's the time to do it.
Yeah, it's a great time. People are going crazy.
Yeah.
and everything's so upside down now. I think people are probably more open to doing something weird. Not that disc golf is weird to most people, but it's still weird to some.
It's just not mainstream. Like, when I started playing, I was like, how is this not like a sport that everybody plays and everybody's talking about? Like, I hear people talking about playing pool than I hear them talking about playing disc golf. And I'm like, really?
And that has been the discussion. I don't know if I told you, but I actually played my first round of disc golf on the world's first Frisbee golf course when there was one course in the world, literally ground zero, and have watched this progression and the conversations. We thought that next year was going to be our year, every single year. Watched beach volleyball blow up, and we're like, we're going to be beach volleyball. We didn't realize that Corona would hire supermodels to sit at the side of the beach watching them play, pretending that they're just hanging out on the beach. And they did a lot of stuff that I'm not sure would have translated to disc golf, but that they were selling, but it worked, for a while. And so that thought is, we've always had that, but this is the biggest year of growth the sport's ever had. Percentage wise, we have never had a year like 2020 for our sport. As bad of a year as it's not been bad for disc golf.
Not at all.
Have you reached out to are there companies that have gotten behind you, or is that part
I have reached out to a lot of people. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but we've reached out to some of the larger companies. I understand that we might not have reached the right people. But we are working on getting together with some companies. We do have a lot of small companies that have gotten behind us and started to help us out with support and donations and things like that. We do have an updated promo graphic that we're going to be putting out today that has a list of all of our vendor sponsors, donations, supporters, stuff like that.
That's cool. In defense of the manufacturers, I think one of the challenges that they face is that they are getting hit on the daily from tournaments, players, and lots of worthwhile causes. And when you're, especially as a large manufacturer, all you can do to manage it is just put together a package and say, if you're a tournament, here's what we can do for you. And I don't know if I was running these companies, if I could manage any differently. Although you could always maybe have your favorites that you're, play favorites with. But I think it's a challenge for them. And then the small companies, they get hit up just as much as the big companies, and they're not even making money. So I think it's going to be hard. But being a squeaky wheel is huge. And just numbers. The more people you have on your page that are listening, the more eyes you put on what you do, you're more valuable from a business sense, right?
Absolutely. And that's my goal right now, is just to try to get all eyes on this.
What about other players in the community? Like I don't want to name drop, so I'll let you share, but there are some big name players.
Yes, I was able to team up with Rebecca Cox, and it was just, I don't even know how that happened so amazingly, but we teamed up, and it's turning out to be just a perfect match for something like this. Like, we're both just so committed to our mission.
Where is she out of again?
She's in Green something, South Carolina right now.
Okay. Permanent, or is that the winter home?
I think she's just staying there during her off season.
That's beautiful. And has there been anybody else who's got on board?
Yes. I actually have an entire board. I'm sure I told you before, but we are transitioning into a nonprofit organization. So I do have a board. Heidi, which is the woman I told you about before, one of the first people that I reached out to in the disc golf community in my area, and first person I was comfortable with on the course, besides my fiance. She is also a board member. We decided collectively me and Rebecca, we decided to add our parents in. So her mom and dad are also on the board, and my dad is also on the board.
That's great.
They all have their own little unique things about them that they bring, and it's the coolest board I've ever put together. I mean, I can't say I've put together a board before, but this is pretty cool. We also have one more board member, which is Noah, and he runs Highs or Nots, and he does a lot of stuff here in the community, and I'm really excited to have him be a part of the team as well.
You'll get some other people to jump on board too. Yeah, you're new, and that's going to be. I mean, there's a lot of people that are new. I'm not even sure where I came across you. I think maybe someone shared one of my posts to your page. Actually, I think that's where it was. I did a post about teaching women. That's all I do. I teach disc golf, about teaching women differently than men and why that's wrong. And I think someone posted that to your page. I think that's how we connected, isn't it?
You know what? I can't even remember. I have talked to so many people since I started that page.
No, I can't. It's a blur to me. I'm old though, so I haven't. You don't have an excuse yet. I do. But you're going to get more people to jump on board. I was taken. Again, like, I don't think I can stress this enough, but the fact that it's non-political, and just by saying it's non-political is almost making this conversation political. But like, yeah. But I like, and it just looked like everything was just streamlining the right direction, even though it was brand new. I mean, it only takes 15 minutes for it to go off the rails in social media. Maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah, and we've got close.
And you've kept that direction. You're also open to open dialogue on different solutions.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of what your page is about. It's about discussing things without necessarily having an agenda about the right way.
Yeah, and we've even had people post things like, "Hey, I have a question that I want to ask this group, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to yet." And everybody comes up like, "Come on, let's ask these questions. This is what we're here for." And like, still haven't heard from them. So I think it's still going to take some time to get people to really tell us what they think. Like, the main question, what do we do? Like, how do we do it? How do we get these
Mhm.
other people to play? And everybody's like, all right, well, I could go tell my friend about it and bring them on the course. All right, well, that's a great start. That's a really great start. But we've got to push it a little bit more if we want to do more.
Yeah, that's been the toughest thing. And like I said, I'm not exaggerating. I've been part of more than 100 conversations over the years, probably several hundred, where the topic has been how do we get more women to play? How do we get more juniors to play? Race has come up less, but the people in my group don't like we never really considered that much because we don't consider race a thing. So that, but we definitely know that we're not women or juniors, right? So, but I think it's a similar conversation. That
Right.
conversation, and it's always ended with, well, let's try this, and it flops. Let's have someone says, hey, and I'm not going back that many years. It was only a few years ago that very few women played. And league after league across the country would say, hey, the first Tuesday of every month is going to be, we're going to do a free clinic for women. No one showed up. Or, one person showed up. And those clubs everywhere tried. And it didn't work. And then they tried something else and it didn't work. It's a recent thing. And what I think has happened is that there's always been some, but it hit this critical mass where enough women would play, even if it's just 2 or 3 that came out to league night. But once there was 2 or 3, getting 4, 5, and 6 took a quarter of the time as the first 3 did. But those first 3 had to get out, and that was you have no idea how hard that was. Everyone wanted it. Juniors, my God, parents wouldn't even let kids golf courses when I started playing because it was a bunch of old, hippies. You would stay away from the Frisbee golf course in the 80s for real.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it is. That's really been my theory on this, is that I think that the sport, and this has been, okay, just theory, but my theory as to why it's been hard to get women to play up until recently has been the fact that in the early days of the sport, not a lot of women played sports after school, like after high school age, back in the 80s. I mean, if you're younger, that kind of seems crazy because, of course, women play sports. Not when I was a kid, right? It was a very, very small group. It required Title IX. Right? There's laws that had to be enacted in order to actually get funding for women's programs in high schools. I mean, that's ridiculous to think, but that's in my lifetime that we needed the government to force schools to create women's sports. So women didn't really play sports. And so, of course, it was typically guys who played because guys were the only ones playing sports. Not only, please don't hate on me. But as soon as you had this game with a bunch of men playing, then the women who wanted to play wouldn't necessarily have the best experience, not because they weren't welcome, but because, I mean, it's a bunch of guys, right? Yeah. I mean, it is, without any ill intent, it isn't always the most welcoming environment for the only woman in the club to come out. Some of them did, but they were very much a minority. But I think that it started one way, and then it kind of built on itself. And it's only been recently that that's changed.
Yeah, I think maybe we would have to strategize, because making a league or having a league and then making like one night be ladies' night is, to me as a woman, I don't think I would just go out for ladies' night because anybody hears ladies' night and you think more dudes are going to show up because there's more chicks there, right?
Well, I don't think they called it that. That kind of sounds like Tuesday night at the bar.
Right.
But they would, well, again, these ideas, they wouldn't necessarily work, but the reason they were there was because people were trying.
Yeah.
And the thing that I saw happen more than anything that was successful, I mean, Juliana Korver was, and many others, but she was a friend of mine, did this in Des Moines, is she would run women's leagues where boys weren't invited, women's league. And as soon as she did that, Des Moines was I believe, the biggest mecca of women's disc golf in the country for a while. And it was, I think, had everything to do with, well, a woman world champion being there didn't hurt, but it was a women's league run by women. And so in Nashville, the women's has blown up here. 3 of the 7 board members of the Nashville Disc Golf Club are women, and the women are proactively trying to bring women out, and that's been highly effective. But that was impossible 25 years ago when there weren't 3 women who wanted to be board members at the club, right? So it kind of took it was a, what do you call it? It was a paradox, right?
Yeah. I started off in a women's league, and it was probably another thing that really helped me got into disc golf was the women's league. They had about 20 women out the first night, and I was just like blown away. And there was women of all skill levels, and it was great.
And did that feel more welcoming to you? Like that was easier to come out?
Absolutely. We met every week, and it was the same women every time. And we alternated between 2 different courses in the area, so we got out too.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying. It's like in a lot of places, it's hit critical mass where there is enough for that, and now it can build. And I think that's why you're seeing it grow. But it was hard.
I couldn't imagine living back then. I'm not saying like back then, but I'm saying like
no, it was back. Yeah, it was just different. Kids didn't play. I mean, juniors divisions. I mean, when I say kids and women didn't play, obviously there were some. I mean, let's be clear. But it was so small. I mean, if a kid came out and played, it's their mom or dad, probably dad, played. That's why they were out. They weren't out there because they were out playing a sport. They were out there because that's what dad did, and dad brought them along. And the women who played were wives and girlfriends, for the longest time. And because most women wouldn't just show up there and be like, oh, is there a league on Tuesday? I want to try it. And again, I think that a lot of that's changed now. I mean, culture's changed. We're moving in the right direction, I believe. But yeah, it wasn't that long ago that, I can't stress this enough. It required the federal government to step in and say, you need to buy uniforms for the women's volleyball team also. Like I was alive to see that.
Crazy.
It is crazy. But I bet it worked. I mean,
right.
It had the intended effect. It just takes a generation or 2 to like fully kick in. So I'm curious about the question of race, and this is where the hot topic where we start polarizing people, but those aren't shoes that I can walk in. And your perception is going to be a little bit different than mine. Like I'm seeing one side of it. You've felt that most people have been welcoming. Like, was it more like when you said you had this stereotype of what it was going to be like? Was it better than you thought it would be once you got to know people with a couple bad apples, or was it what you expected?
So when I got into disc golf, it was that welcoming, it was all welcoming, but I can't say that I did not have any negative experiences. But I mean, these were only experiences perceived by me and how I took them. And I can't speak for the other parties in my experiences. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say that I have been targeted or anything like that. I've had experiences. I try not to, maybe I'm naive, or maybe I'm just, not too social in the, disc golf community, but I got into disc golf and it was extremely accepting. But it's just like anywhere else. You're going to have that handful of people that suck.
Mm-hmm. That's one of those areas where like we can empathize with each other, but not really understand. And that's why I like the dialogue. And that's why I like talking to you. I mean, you're you have a very objective view. You know, like you say, well, it felt this way, but it may have been my perception too. Like, I don't know. I think the ability just to say, I don't know is powerful, because as soon as you know something for sure, especially if you know for sure what that other person's thinking, you're full of shit. Right? I mean, but as soon as you say, well, this person, the reason that person reacted that way is because they're thinking this, like, how can you possibly know that? But that's what our tendency is to do when we get a reaction and it feels a certain way, right?
Yeah, and that's a big part of why we haven't been able to communicate or approach people without offending them. Like I think I told you the story about how we were disc golfing at a local course, and someone decided to pull out their phone and start recording us like we were a show. And to me, it was like, hey, we're not a show, you know, don't record us. But I don't know, maybe he could have been impressed by us throwing, or maybe he wanted to check out the song that we were listening to. I mean, like, you got to be just open.
Right.
Even if he did have something negative, or he was going to take it and post it in some kind of group that nobody can see, like, I don't care. I can't see the group. He's going to be that way his whole life.
Well, and I don't believe in the disc golf community anything just outwardly blatant is going to be accepted. I mean, as a community, though, you mostly have to keep that shit to yourself if you think that way. As a community, we're not that welcoming of that type of views. We are an alternative sport. We are outcasts. We were born from a group of hippies that were all, like, everybody that played in the early days was an outcast. Like, we were all misfits. I mean, playing Frisbee in the park in 1980 or 1970, that was crazy back then. You know, there were 4 sports. There was basketball, football, baseball, and hockey. If you were rich, you played tennis and ball golf. And you didn't do any of them past age 18 unless you were a professional or a college athlete. Like, that's what sports was. Like, participation sports, the idea of going out playing sports as a 40-year-old man was almost unheard of when I was younger. That's what you watch sports on TV. So going out to play Frisbee in the park didn't make any sense to our parents. So I think that the initial group of Frisbee players was, I think, going to be way more understanding of that feeling, just because we experienced it. I mean, it's different. I'm not saying it's the same journey, but we were outcasts. I mean, there's not an old school Frisbee player who won't tell you that they didn't get laughed at, shit on, made fun of, insulted continuously when we early days of the sport. Strange as it sounds, that was all of our stories back then. So you have an event coming up.
Yes, we have our first event coming up.
And so share, please.
All right, so this is going to be our meet and greet. I couldn't find any better title for that. So it's just a meet and greet. We plan to have vendors. We're going to do raffles, silent auctions. We'll be giving away things. One of the main things we're going to be doing is putting games, where you like, pay $2 for a disc, or $2 per disc or something like that, and you get a chance to putt, and we'll have awards and stuff for that too, giveaways, prizes, door prizes. All of that will be leading up to our panel discussion, where we'll have me and Rebecca and a few select other persons of interest to come up on our panel. We're going to give our explanation, our mission statement, what we're doing, what we want to do, our goals, our views, our plans, maybe give them some insight on a couple of our programs that we have that we're getting ready to start up. All the proceeds for this are going to go towards turning so we started with our articles of incorporation. We're going to take the next step after that, which is going to be filing for our 501c3 status, so we can become a legit nonprofit organization, and then we're going to take that from there. But the event, we have a lot going on with the event. We also have clinics that we're running with Rebecca, which she will be doing the week of the event. And then we also have, we're doing a disc drive. Well, she's going to be here for a week. So I planned out a whole week of promo and stuff to do. But she's going to be running some clinics focusing on like driving and putting. We're going to be doing a promo night the Wednesday of the event, which is going to be held at a bar. The location is due to change, so I'll probably update you on that. But it's going to be, we have donation tickets available on our site to where if you can't make the event, you can purchase a ticket for a local. And once we do the promo night at the bar, we're going to hand out those tickets to locals that want to go to the event. We also have Round with the Founders, where you'll be able to play 18 holes with me and Rebecca. You'll get a personalized goodie bag, and that ticket also comes with tickets to the actual event as well. So there's a lot going on with that week, not just the event, but many ways for anybody to get involved.
That's awesome.
The event itself is going to be at the Lexus Velodrome in Detroit. It's a pretty large venue. We're going to be operating at 1/3 capacity, which will hold 250 comfortably socially distanced.
Okay.
So I think 250 might be a good number to cap out at anyways.
And that would be fantastic. And that's actually in Detroit.
Yes.
Are you going to have any other local pros coming out that you've solicited to come out to the event?
You know what? I have sent invites to all the big disc golfers in the area. Some of them don't seem too interested. I can expect that some of them just assume that I'm sending them random invites to everything. And, you know, if I can get everybody interested in this and like, hey, we're going to this and tell people about it, I think that would work better.
And honestly, it doesn't matter how this first one does. It's the first one. You know, it's just you got to do the first one to get the second one. Are you planning on making events part of what you do, like awareness, educational events? Is that part of the mission, or?
Absolutely. So our mission statement, as it stands, is to encourage increased diversity and inclusion in the sport of disc golf through strategy, outreach, study, and other methods. So we will use any method we choose that we can, if it's going to be events, if it's going to be clinics, if it's going to be going to high schools or middle schools or rec centers. That'll be part of our outreach. Social media is going to be a big part of it because Diversify Disc Golf is going to have a TikTok soon, and I think that's going to help us target the younger ones.
Oh, kids these days. What's TikTok, just to be funny, but I read about it on my MySpace page, so I know what it is. Joking, not joking. God, it's so funny. It'd be so much funnier if it wasn't true. You're diversifying? Are you including kids in the diversifying part?
Absolutely. I have a 2 and a 3-year-old, and my son is extremely interested in throwing, but my daughter is not, and I'm okay with that. She may come around and he might lose interest. You know, it's whatever. I'm going to be playing regardless.
Yeah. What about, are you specifically targeting groups? For example, and I think this is, I don't know, I mean, you could probably speak to this better than I could, but it could be a tricky area. If you said, how do we get more Black players out? But as soon as you do that, there's this kind of feeling of like, well, now you've just separated us. But at the same time, not being proactive lets things remain the status quo. I mean, it's a tricky line to play, right?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about that a lot, actually, because like I said, you can't just collect up all your Black friends and be like, let's go play disc golf. So if we can find ways to target it differently, like without saying, I'm not even saying like do it and word it differently. I'm saying like figure out different ways to, I don't even know how to say what I'm saying. Okay, so you remember when we talked about where the baskets are all over in my area?
Mm-hmm.
So our barriers in my area is clearly that we have no metro parks. You know, there's
Right.
nothing in this big circle. We don't have the land for it. So that's our mission. So we have to find the land for it or find a way to get disc golf into these concrete areas. I think the geography is the target, not just necessarily the demographics, but you can aim for different things that'll help bring the awareness to the targets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And you know, I don't envy the challenge. I mean, been, you know, these have been the conversations we've been having for years. I'm a real big believer that just as long as we continue to have the conversations and try, you're going in the right direction. With probably a lot of your ideas are going to fail. I mean, not fail in the big picture because you're trying things moving forward, but in a sense, you know, you'll do things and go, where's everybody? Like that'll happen. Like I can tell you in advance in my experience. Well, I've been a big entrepreneur in the sport. I've done so many different things, the first to do so many different things. And I'm known for the ideas that worked. But I've done many things where, you know, they've flopped miserably. But no one hears about those, thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you'll have times you'll go to a community and say, hey, we're doing this free disc golf thing, and then no one shows up. But you also may go out and you get a crowd. I mean, it's just going to be, it's more about doing it than succeeding in a sense, I think.
I hear you.
So I hope you have thick skin.
I do, and I'm ready to do it too. Like I'm definitely, I don't know, there's something in me that just tells me that I can do this, and this is just what I want to do.
No, for sure you can do it. And again, you can't do it wrong. I did a podcast about my special needs class. So I've been to 280 cities where I would do a free class for kids and adults with special needs. And my first special needs class, 0 people showed up. And I was almost happy about it because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I had not a clue how to teach people with special needs how to disc golf. And when they didn't show up, part of me, honest to God, part of me was relieved. I'm like, okay, I can't mess it. And then the next night, I got 3. But I had days in the 280 events. I had days where I had 0 people show up. And I also had days with vanfuls. And overall, it worked. Individually, if I compartmentalized, like, oh God. I would drive 3 hours to a city and then stand in the park. Kind of, I'd be like sitting like this going, you know,
Oh,
and that was Facebook posts. Oh no, I got the date and time right. You know, it's just it things that are hard. I mean, if it was easy, you wouldn't have diversified disc golf. If it was easy, it'd already be done.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I might not be looking forward towards those parts of this, but the rest of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just as long as you consider that part of the process. You know, that's, you know, no shows and, you know, pushback and haters and all those things are just, they come with the package. You know, they just will.
Have you seen our malfunction with the shirts yet?
Yeah, with they're sideways. Yeah, I saw that. Of course, and of course, it's going to be your first run of shirts because right out of the gate. By the way, those are, you know what those are also known as? Collector's items.
Yeah.
Those will be worth money someday. Everybody that got one of those. In fact, if you want to send me one, I'll put it in plastic and then I'll sell it for like $150 in 5 years. That one looks good. Oh, is it sideways? I can't tell.
I'm trying to make it. This is straight.
Oh, okay. So it's sideways.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, it's enough of a problem for me to say, hey, these people paid $24 for a crooked shirt. Now you need to fix it.
yeah, that's fair. Oh, well, now here's the question: was that were the shirts or the time donated?
So we went through Custom Ink, and they have a platform where, you set the price of the shirt, you design the shirt,
Oh,
and they sell everything. Like they basically do all of the handwork for you. And then when your campaign is done, they send you the funds and then they ship out all the shirts. So I basically had to do nothing for that fundraiser. And
yeah.
I got a lot of backlash for not using certain shirt printing places. I got scolded for somebody who clicked
It's
the wrong shipping option, and it came to me instead of them. Like, I'm like, oh, slow down, people. I'm one person.
yeah. It's I'm laughing because I'm laughing because that's just, this is part of it. Yeah, the reason I was asking if it was the time was donated was one of the biggest challenges I found is that somebody volunteers their time or donates, like they're like, for example, the printer says, what, I'll print all these for free. Then they come out bad and you're like, oh my God, how do I ask this person to redo them? They did them for free. Like if you've paid for it, it's okay to say, hey, they're not right. But if it's free, you're like, what do I do? Like, how do I ask the person to, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
all
and I've had people trying to, well, not trying to, but offer to do things for us for free. And then I'm like, okay, what about this timeline? And the timeline doesn't work out for them. And they're like, well, I'm doing it for free. And I'm like, okay, great,
it's
but I'm still trying to get business rolling. So that is a really tough situation. And I
yeah.
feel you.
I'll tell you one of the toughest things you're going to face, at least in my experience, but I'm pretty sure this is going to happen, is people are going to question the money trail.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you just a real quick story because to illustrate this was the most difficult thing for me doing my special needs classes, is that when I did the classes, I was already going to towns, running a clinic and running a doubles event as a business. All I started doing with the Blue Power events was I say an hour before my clinic is a free, I just added a free class for kids and adults with special needs. I would buy them a shirt and a disc out of my own pocket just for showing up with this free class. Instantly, where's the money going? And I'm like, because I ran this event where I had doubles and I was merchandising at the event. That was the business I was running before I started doing the special needs classes, before I added the free class. As soon as I did that, it became, and it was so, for a while, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
And of course, on the outside, someone looking in says, well, why do you care what that jerk says? Well, that's easy to say. It's hard not to feel it. And that's partially why I made my haters video that literally just came out, because people deal with this. And so that's going to be something that you'll have to deal with as well, because when you're selling things, you're making money. Well, where's the money going? And it's like,
all right. So, what I want everybody,
but if you want to share,
I just want everybody to know that, since the day that this has all started, I have been keeping track of every dollar and every transaction, everything spent or done under the DDG name. So I have record of all that. I have all my receipts and everything. Our money right now is being used to purchase merchandise so we can build initial funds to have everything that we need to be ready to submit our 501c3 paperwork, which is going to take like 6 months to a year anyways. So in the meantime, we're just trying to continue with fundraising instead of just waiting to fundraise for this one thing and then, do that. Like I want it to be continual.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm certainly not asking you. That's not what.
Oh,
I'm
no,
saying,
no. I really want everybody to know because that question's going to come to me soon, and nobody's asked me yet. And I'm like, we're trying to make this into a business. That's what we're doing with all the money, and we're buying merch, and we have the decals available. We're having pendants made. We just got our logo this week, so we're going to be slapping that on everything here really soon.
yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, people are going to hate. I will tell you that most people, they're not questioning you. The vast majority of people aren't. That small minority that is, they're the ones who post. But the vast majority of people, that's not even a consideration. But the vocal people, I'm telling you, they can hurt. It sucks. And it for me, when that would happen, I would have moments where I didn't want to do this thing I was doing that was such a good thing. I had moments where I was like, why am I doing this if people are going to feel that way? And then I just kept going back to, the 99% of people that didn't feel that way, and they would kind of reel me back in. But it was hard. So everything you're doing, I think it's fantastic. I mean, you're a lot where I was with Blue Power, 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm just seeing your journey is going to be similar. And it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, and it will be for you. Watching this thing turn into something it's so beautiful. But you got to step over some dog poop in the yard.
I'm ready. Bring on the dogs, man.
Bring on the dogs. You're going to be selling merchandise?
Yes.
You're going to be selling discs with logos, I assume.
We're trying. The look for getting custom discs right now isn't looking too great because all the manufacturers are behind.
Yeah. Have you contacted any of the smaller manufacturers?
We have, and I guess people kind of just brush off our messages.
Well, one of the things you'll find, unfortunately, with the smaller manufacturers is that people, even if they want to support what you do, they still want a buzz or a destroyer. They still want, and I thought this because I had a small manufacturer that was a big sponsor of what I was doing. And I thought everybody would come out and be buying Blue Power discs just because they wanted to support Blue Power, and sales were dismal. And as soon as I brought in a bigger name manufacturer to start doing it, sales boomed. And I really realized that people want to support you, but they also want the disc that they like. And so the small manufacturers are great. They'll be excited to get behind you because you're showing an interest in them. But as far as selling discs, it's harder, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you said that, yeah, and I know everybody's behind on the custom stuff. All right, well then, it's when it comes out, it's going to do well. I mean, you'll sell way more discs than all the other merchandise combined.
Well, we have Latitude making a special event disc.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah, it doesn't have our logo on it or anything, but we're getting a short stock of it, and I think that's going to be our player pack, part of our player pack.
That's awesome. Who did you talk to out there? Do you recall?
Rebecca's the one that hooked that up because she's sponsored by Latitude, so she was able to use some of her connections for that. I think she spoke with, his name was Eric, I want to say, maybe.
Not sure. I know Tomas and Stokely really well, but I talked to Tomas not that long ago. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea, getting connections that way. I mean, I do a lot of work with Latitude, RPM, Gateway, Costaplast. Costaplast might be something to look into. Do you want me to look into that for you? I could ask them if what they're able to do.
Absolutely. I think I know somebody who is sponsored by them as well.
Yeah, I talk to Anders all the time. He's a really good guy. Well, they all are. They're all good. I can't say aren't, What ideas do you have beyond? So you're going to be doing some events. You're doing what we call community outreach. I mean, are you talking about proactively? Well, let me back up. When you talk about putting in the baskets in these communities, have you put together an approach to do that, or is that still in the let's try to figure out how we can do that?
It's still in the let's talk about it and let's figure out how. Let's figure out who we need to talk to about it and what we would need to do to acquire something like this. So what I wanted to do was be able to come up with a slideshow or some kind of presentation to where we can, present to somebody and show them what we want to do with, X amount of space. So I want to come up with a design or a concept and make it just this one design and put this design all over big cities. Like, throw one in Detroit, we'll have one in Nashville, we'll have one, on the West Coast too. And it'll be a Sally Park, you know what I'm saying? And I'll trademark it and it'll be a Sally Park.
Now, is that one of those things where you're allowed to say, but if I say it, it's not allowed?
No. It's gonna be like you think of a golf course, then you think of putt golf, and then there's gonna be Sally Parks.
Right. And wait, it's called, say that again, Sally Park?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like to throw my name and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason I was asking about it, without going down this rabbit hole, but the term Sally you've heard it used on the golf course, right? It's right. And so that's what I wasn't, when you said that, I wasn't making the connection to you. I was making the connection that you were being derogatory because the course was short. Like, that's such a Sally. So I thought you were actually, and then I was going, is that one of those things where you're allowed to say it, but I'm not? Because I completely forgot that you're also Sally.
I think the fact that it's my name also works out because they are shorter putting parks.
Yeah. I gotcha. That's actually really, really funny. Yeah, I think that the community is gonna help because you're gonna have people step up who are grant writers and people who work for city councils, and you'll have people that have ends. I mean, there's no reason that you need to learn how to write a grant proposal. Like, there's people that do, and they will step up and help you. The community will have people that want to get involved. The more reach you have, especially when you ask for it. That's one of the big things. Like, don't beat around the bush and say, like, oh, we're trying to write this grant proposal, but I'm having a hard time, ... Like, if you actually say, can somebody help me with this? Someone's going to write you and say yes. And that's been my experience anyways, is you got to be direct with people. But the community is this community. You're going to get people behind what you do. So you're going into the communities, you're working with kids. Are you doing anything to, or are you thinking about doing things as far as helping clubs solve their problem of diversifying? I mean, like, for example, coming up with like action plans for clubs to use. Like, I know Innova has a great curriculum for kids that they can just take and just hand to you, and then you could do this program. I know other manufacturers do too, but that's the one that I think is, I think they were the first to do this. And are you thinking about doing things like that to help clubs solve the problem that they're trying to solve?
Absolutely. I think one of our programs is going to involve something where a league can get a hold of us and be like, hey, we want to do a newbie night, and will you send us a newbie package, and we'll send over starter packs for however many new people signed up in their group, and we'll come out and make it super fun, or make it something special, make it something to where they can remember it. or, you know, have some kind of incentive for bringing out new people. Something along the lines of that. Not exactly that, but I'm still, you know, it's still conjuring up in my head.
Well, I mean, yeah, the educational material, because that's kind of where the conversation started was, you know, back in my day, that's how I try to sound old. Back in my day, discussions, how can we do this? And a lot of ideas didn't work. And then, I mean, I just said, like, I'm down here, I'm just wintering, and well, not even wintering, just I'm spending a month in Nashville, and was meeting with the president of the Nashville club last night, and the women's game here is boom. Then here's what he and then others did that worked. And that sounds great, but having something in writing that says, here's an action plan for your club that, you know, that if he does that he can actually just hand off, here's the roadmap, that I think it's more effective than just, you know, talking about it.
Yeah. Give somebody a clear guideline of some suggestions, stuff like that. I'm wondering if we could start like maybe some kind of, maybe even like a league committee.
What?
Maybe even like a league committee.
Yeah. I think that's great, because there are, everywhere around the country, there are places that have overcome these challenges in their town. Like I said, back in the 90s, women's golf blew up in Des Moines. They did something different in Des Moines than they did other places. And so if you had someone from the Des Moines club, you know, metaphorically, on the committee, that would be great. I mean, there are towns where there's tons and tons of kids who play. I remember Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Again, I'm dating myself a little bit, but there was a time in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where you'd go out to the course and there'd be 50 kids out there, maybe 3 or 4 adults. I mean, it was the most kid-friendly course I'd ever seen. Well, Barry Schultz and Paul Nitsch built that. They created that. And so, like, I think that's not a bad idea. If you get people who have succeeded in their towns, and I would suspect if they succeeded at doing this in their towns, they're the type of person that would love nothing more than to participate in having their vision actually work elsewhere. I mean, everyone wants to get credit for what they've done, right?
Yeah. If we had like some kind of league committee, or not even a board, just like a group of people that run leagues that get together and share ideas, that'd be awesome.
I think that's, I don't think you're going to have a problem finding that at all. You know, maybe put the word out and ask, you know, is your club succeeding at any of these areas? And if, you know, and then people will write back, or not even if is your club, what clubs in your, or are there any clubs in your area that have succeeded at this thing? I think that could be a really great idea. You know, I would love to, if there was ever a discussion on special needs disc golf, I would absolutely give my time. And that's my area of air quotes around expertise, but like, I'm more familiar with the special needs disc golf, I think probably than anybody. Like, I would love nothing more than to share that.
That's awesome.
Now, so speaking on that now, is that another area that you've thought about reaching out to? Is that
the league portion? Absolutely.
No, special needs.
Special needs? Absolutely. If we can get, I want disc golf to be part of the Olympics. Like, if we can get that there, then it's going to be great. And then, I mean, right at that same level is going to be the Special Olympics. So once we get this exposure to disc golf, if we can get it mainstream enough to be in the Olympics, like, that's going to be so awesome. And I think that disc golf in schools within special needs programs is going to be super beneficial. I used to work with when I was in elementary school, I was in a program called the Starfish program, where they would take the kids out of their classes and let them go hang out with the kids in the special needs class. And I was one of the ones that they would take out even on the days there we didn't have that program, and let me hang out with them, because they were just so, it was always just fun just being able to interact like that. And I think they loved that interaction. And I think disc golf is a great way to have that interaction and meet in the middle with everybody.
No, I think
it's
so.
It's just so universal.
Is I'll tell you a real quick funny story, because when I started the special needs disc golf, and this is just along the lines of everything we're talking about, the way it started was I was traveling around the country. I was doing clinics, like, my pro clinics, and then running an event. And I was inclusive because my clinics were free. They were free for everybody. Everybody's welcome to attend. The clinic is free. It's inclusive. And my girlfriend at the time, who had a son with autism, said, "Are you really inclusive? Like, what about someone with autism?" And I said, "It's inclusive. It's free." And she said, "But does it really include them?" And I'm not, someone with high functioning autism, yes, it includes them. Someone medium functioning, it did not. And then she said, "What about if someone's paraplegic? Does your clinic is it inclusive to them?" I'm like, "Yeah, because it's free." And she's like, "What if they're blind?" And I'm like, "It's free." And then it just occurred to me that it wasn't inclusive. And I've been doing this for years, and it never dawned on me that I wasn't being inclusive. It was like a ton of bricks. I was like, shit, like, have your worldview like turned upside down in like 30 seconds. But it wasn't inclusive. And that's how the whole thing started, was, my attempt to be inclusive was not. Well, I mean, it was a little bit. They were still free. That still includes people that don't have money, but it wasn't fully inclusive. And
Right.
So, like, everything we're talking about I think it's that same idea, right? Which is, just because your league is open to everybody, it's inclusive. But if it doesn't really address these different groups, it's kind of.
Then we got to talk about, how do you address those groups within a league?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing, like, there has to be some way of communicating to people outside of these groups that this is a welcoming group. You said it yourself. You had a perception of what it was going to be like, and it turned out people were nice.
Yeah.
But how do you convince an entire demographic of humans of that? Like that, again, so now we're having the conversation where you're like, God, this is not easy.
It kind of just keeps cycling. Like, we can figure out ways to do things. We can figure out ways to get people to play. But if we don't just keep playing, and I don't know what to do anymore, but just keep playing and make it look fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, I guess that's the point of the discussion, is that you try things. I mean, it has been solved. Des Moines solved the problem of getting women to play disc golf. It was a solvable problem. It just, it just had to happen. And again, I'm pointing to Des Moines because they did a good job. There were clearly people doing a good job other places. I'm not suggesting that Des Moines was the only place, but like, they licked that problem in the mid 90s. And so, they're solvable. Anything else you're working on that related to this that we want to share?
Let me think. We are doing disc drives currently at the moment. And we've got about, I want to say, 60 discs so far, new and used, and they're going to be split up and sent to Thailand and Malaysia. We'll be picking up from Great Lakes Disc in Grand Rapids, Michigan, every couple weeks or so. I'll just keep an eye on it. And I've got people that are sending me discs from all over the country. So anybody that that wants to get rid of a handful of discs, these discs are going to go to a lot of kids in different countries.
That's brilliant. And where is it going again?
Danny is in Thailand. I can't pronounce the name of it. It's like Mang Tang, or I'm awful. It's in my notes somewhere, but he's been doing a lot of coursework in Thailand. He's building courses and stuff like that, and helping out the community and growing the community out there, as well as Louisa, who teaches kids out there in Malaysia. So I really want to support what they have going on.
Okay, so you're already global. How about that?
Something like that.
All right. If someone wants to support what you're doing, they can do what?
You can buy window decals. You can buy any of our merch products. Right now, we just have the decals, and the pendants will be coming out real soon. By the time this airs, we'll have like all this merch, I swear. But
about 3 weeks.
yeah, you can purchase tickets to the event. You can purchase tickets for other people to go to the event. You can also just send donations to Diversify Disc Golf at gmail.com. All donations go towards us buying merch and getting our initial funds together. Once we get our grand fund together, we're going to go ahead and submit all of our paperwork so we can be 501c3 established. And once this is an actual like established organization, we're going to make all our programs official and, you know, try to get this more global than it is now.
And participating in the group, sharing posts.
Yes, yes, absolutely. People can share our posts. Our page is 100% public. So you can add anybody you'd like. You can share it. We're on Instagram and Twitter as well, so people can share those. Like I said, we're doing the disc drive, so if anybody wants to send discs, our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 444, Hazel Park, Michigan, 48030. And we take all kinds of discs. If they're dirty too, like I'll wash them up. It doesn't matter.
I'm really excited about what you're doing. And I've said this 4 times. I'm going to say it a 5th time. You've kept politics out of it. You've focused on solutions. If you keep doing that, it's going to work. And, you know, as long as it stays positive. Well, when you go to your group, I mean, people are nice and they're polite and they're friendly and they're disagreeing with each other politely. Well, no, but that's not that common.
That's how you make progress, though, because you're not going to get anywhere if you just keep saying, well, you need to do this, or if you just keep arguing back and forth, nobody's going to get anywhere.
Yeah, that's where that's why I wanted to start the conversation with how different we are. None of those things are relevant. I'd be willing to bet if we talked about race, gender, sexual orientation, solutions, causes, I bet you that we would find things we disagree on all those things. And they're irrelevant because we're on the same team. It's like you don't have to be, the Chicago Bulls didn't all like each other. They still won championships. I'm not saying we don't like each other. I'm saying if you're on the same team with the same goal, you can make the progress you want. You don't have to agree on everything. And so far, your page has done a great job of people not agreeing with each other and being on the same team. And I hope you're diligent about that, because if you're 10 or 20 or 50 times as big, you're going to have 10, 20, 50 times as many people, 10, 20, 50 times as many haters. It's going to be that's a challenge you'll have to you'll have to, I was about to say solve, but you'll never solve it. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
But the spirit of what you're doing is great. That's why I wanted to talk to you. A lot of people are doing things in different areas, and you're the first one I want to talk to. Not wanted to, but the first person I talked to because of you. I mean, it's 100% because of you and the way you're making this go. It's you're doing it right. I mean that.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And I kind of wondered when I first started doing this, like, do I even, like, is it my place to be doing this? And I don't know, everything's just been falling in line and working out. So I'm just going to keep it up.
Yeah, well, I just do whatever the hell you want. It's your page. It's your nonprofit. It'll be you're running your board, and right. Then some people will agree, some people won't. Nor do they have to. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that like, it's as much as distasteful as I find certain people, I defend their right to feel that way. I defend their right to be ignorant. I defend a person's right to be an idiot. I don't mean that as a backhanded insult. I mean, I defend people's rights to want things differently than I want them. I'm just going to fight to do it my way and accept you for being wrong.
I'm so with that.
No, that part was a joke, but I defend the right to have different opinions, and that's, you know, we live in a free country where that's allowed. But there's a lot of people that are going to be on your side, a lot of people that won't be vocal, that will be behind what you do, and a lot of people will come out and support. And, you know, I just one last thing I'll just give before I wrap this up. You're gonna get hate. You're gonna get, you know, just, that's gonna be, I think, your number one challenge, is not to let that bring you down. It's as obviously positive a thing you're doing, not everyone's going to agree. And just don't give them any power. And I think you'll be fine. So just keep doing what you're doing. Anything you want to pitch before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on a second, because I posted something this morning and I tagged you in it, and then people were like, make sure you ask him this. And I'm like, all right, sure, fine.
Go ahead.
One of these says, have you ever gotten calls back from writing female's name on a disc? The world is still waiting.
I posted the result. Okay, so what I did, are you familiar with where this comes from?
A little bit.
Okay. So what I did, it was a very small sampling test, is I took 4 discs and I wrote guys' names on the back. I took 4 discs and I wrote women's names on the back, and I took 4 discs and I wrote stripper names on the back. And I went out to Zebo's Park in Fort Worth, and I took these 12 discs and I went and tossed them in the woods. They're going to get found eventually. And I wanted to see what the test was. And I wanted to see who got more results. Does Diamond and Cinnamon and Portia get more call back, Dave and Charlie? And it's a very small sample size, but I got 2 calls from the guys, 2 calls from the women, and 3 calls on the strippers. Again, a very small sample size, but the strippers got more calls. That happened.
We should do that on a larger scale.
Do like the wallet test, where they drop the wallets, like 3 lost wallets in every major city on earth, to see where the wallets get returned.
We should do it. We should do it.
I posted that it's either in the comments or in the description. I did post the results, but yeah,
we should do it with 1,000 discs all over the US.
Oh God.
I need to know these numbers. These numbers are actually pretty important. I need to know if people need to be nervous about getting into the sport because they don't want to lose money from losing discs. Like, we need to know if these people need to put different names on the discs, maybe.
Actually, the funny thing is what I found, it's the culture of the club and the community. There are towns where you lose a disc, you'll get it back. And there are towns where if you lose a disc, you don't. And it's really just the culture of that community, that club. That's been in my experience, because there are clubs where they'll tell you flat out, yeah, you lose a disc here, someone's going to call you. But that's not everywhere. I don't want to. Oh God. See, this is why I can't get through any single thing I do without saying something that's going to make people mad. I'm incapable of not doing it. I'm of the opinion, if you throw a disc into a lake and you're not willing to go in and get it and someone else is,
they can have it.
I'm okay with them having it. If they've gone into the lake and gotten it back. Oh God, now you just lost 12% of your listeners who are just going to tune out now.
Okay, but people need to understand, like, if that disc really meant something to you, you would go get it. So it clearly didn't mean enough to you, so they left it. So
yeah, hey, I mean, if you do this down in Florida, there's alligators in the lakes on disc golf courses. This is the true story. First time I went to Clearwater, There are alligators in the lakes. There are kids that dive for discs. One kid stands on shore. The other kid, they call them squids. This is not like one time. This is on the daily. One kid stands on shore, watches for the alligator, while the other kid dives for discs. And if the alligator starts coming, he says, hey, get out of the water. And he gets out of the water, and they wait for the alligator to pass, and he goes back in. I believe they deserve those discs.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is not something that happened once and it's become lore. This is every day on those courses. There are people diving for discs in the water. They even have, they have a name. Yeah. It's crazy. First time I went to Florida, I just stood there like eating Cheetos, just waiting for something YouTube or this before YouTube. But I was just like, oh, I'm gonna get to see someone eaten by an alligator.
Nope, the gator can have my disc. I'm sure of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry. I think you deserve my disc.
Last question.
Yeah.
Where is his wrestling mask, and why he stopped being that alter ego from last year or a year prior?
I don't have any idea what you're. Oh, you mean that Chris Alto guy? Oh, so Chris Alto got deported back to Antarctica, but rumor has it he's going to be playing some Southern National events this year if he can get back into the country. But I don't talk to him. Me and him aren't friends.
I don't know what the wrestling mask is about, but that was just on there.
No, it's about this guy Chris Alto that he was the 12-time Antarctic Open champion, and he came to America and was targeting me for some reason. But I know, but he got deported. But I heard he's coming back.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Is this the first podcast you've done?
This is my first podcast, my first interview, anything significant. This is my first.
You know what I would do is I would reach out. Everyone's looking for podcast guests. Reach out to them, let them know. You'll get on some. I mean, it's all just exposure. There's a large podcast audience. I don't know how many you'll get with my show because it's newer, but I mean, over time it'll be in the thousands, but it's thousands of people who are listening to you speak and talk about this for an hour. That's going to be different than 10,000 people that see a shared post. So you'll reach less people, but they're going to listen to what you have to say for a while.
That makes sense.
So cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Good luck with everything. And we're friends now. So let's just, I'll keep.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You guys have a beautiful day.